Hey, this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for Strikeforce Diaz versus Daley. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank our sponsors, GoBusiness123.com, DeMarco Sunglasses Boutique in Laguna Beach. Please support your local mom and pop shops. And DeMarcoUSA.com as well, where you should be able to get sunglasses online now. Okay. Some overall thoughts on the show. Cesar Gracie guys, man. These guys are rule Strikeforce, man. When Jake Shields was in Strikeforce as their middleweight champion, I mean, Cesar Gracie had all the belts. Cesar Gracie guys still have all the belts, and they look really good too. It's just one of those things. There's still some good competition for Diaz. I think he can fight like Woodley. And there's still good guys from Melendez like Nunes and Wilcox. I'll get more into that in Strikeforce. But after seeing performances like this, you just want to see him in the UFC against the best guys. Both of these guys looked. Melendez especially looked like a world beater. Diaz was Diaz. I mean, like, I think it's gonna be a case of where the fight's so exciting, but the performance was really good. Don't get me wrong, but you know, when you get dropped twice, you get dropped twice. It's like that's the thing, and I'll get more to it as I get to the main event actually. Okay, so here are the preliminary card results as Casey Ryan beat Paul Song by triangle choke in the first round. Rolando Perez beat Edgar Cardenas by unanimous decision. Herman Tirado defeated AJ Matthews by TKO in the first round. Joe Duarte beat Sada Wad by submission in the second round. Virgil Swicker defeated Brett Albee by TKO in the first round. And Robert Peralta beat Hiroyuki Takaya by split decision. I'm surprised actually by the Peralta win. Takaya has actually fought some tough competition. And he's not like the worst fighter or anything. I felt he just has fought tougher guys, has better experience with more experienced guys, but I guess he didn't win his this one stateside. And Virgil Swicker, I've never been really impressed with the guy. Of course, he's fighting like LeVar Johnson or Shane Del Rosario and stuff like that, so it's hard to be really impressed with a guy who's like losing. But that's pretty much all I got to say for the prelims. As far as people fighting stateside, though, Shinya Aoki defeated Lyle Fancy Pants Beerbomb by a neck crank in round 1 of their fight. The last time I saw a neck crank win in Strikeforce was actually pretty recently, as Valentin Overeem did it on Ray Seppo. Aoki was a little more technical. He took the back, similar to like a rear naked choke, but then just went for that neck crank. Really, I'm kind of surprised that someone of the caliber of Beerbomb would tap out to a move like that. It's not a twister or anything like that. And, you know, he's the king of scrambling. You know, you've seen him in bad positions before. You'd kind of think Beerbomb wouldn't lose to neck crank, but I guess that wasn't the case. As far as what it says about Beerbomb, the guy needs to move to 145. He's fighting natural lightweights, and big ones at that. Pat Healy is a big lightweight. Aoki isn't big as in like buff, but he's really tall and lanky for the weight class. As far as Aoki goes, he beat a guy he's supposed to beat, who's just a solid like mid-tier prospect at this time. I think Beerbomb, like a lot of lightweights that cut down to 145, whether it's Gambarian, Mike Brown, and others, I think he's actually good in lightweight. Beerbomb is, but he has the potential of being great as a featherweight, so he should definitely consider cutting down. With Aoki, you know, it's tough to say where he is. it's tough to. He's ranked very highly in a lot of rankings. Top 5 in a lot of people's rankings, and it's hard to say if it's justified or not. He got killed by Melendez. Not killed, but just not destroyed, but just outclassed by Melendez, pretty much. He had nothing. He's shut down by Melendez, and you gotta wonder if Aoki goes up against other wrestlers, would he just get shut down in a cage? In a ring, it's different, but in a cage, you gotta wonder. Maybe Aoki versus Thompson would be pretty interesting. I think Thompson definitely has a skill set that can give Aoki problems, and it's not someone that Aoki is supposed to beat, So we'll see how that goes. Next fight after that is the dream catcher, Gegard Mousasi. He went to a majority draw with Keith Dedeen, Amin Jardine. The thing with this fight is they're probably going to have a rematch, which is kind of unfortunate. Well, not really, because, apparently the rumor right now is Dan Henderson versus Fedor. So, because the winner of this match was supposed to get Dan Henderson, now there's more reason to do Fedor versus Dan Henderson. The thing is, I thought Gegard should have won. However, his takedown defense is getting really exposed. I don't know if it's just with his Dutch-style stance or whatnot, but, he gets taken down. He got up, which is really cool, but, and he got up all the time, so, and Jardine didn't really do much as far as damage. I mean, it's painfully obvious that Mousasi was doing more damage. This is definitely one of those decisions that makes you question judges in MMA right now, and how there needs a reform in judging in MMA. I don't know what these judges are seeing, but yeah, we'll probably see a rematch with these two. Jardine, it's an ugly fight. Jardine makes ugly fights. Especially if you go past the first round with him. I mean, he's just the type of fighter. He's not the most technically sound guy, but he's so tough. He's just such a tough guy that he makes fights tough for his opponent, and he like I said, he makes really ugly fights. I mean, they're entertaining. I don't mean ugly in a bad way or boring or anything like that. He has fun fights. But it really is like a war of attrition, a war of he always makes it a fight with his opponent. As far as making it a fight in his opponent, Giri just was not able to do that when he lost in the first round by TKO to Gilbert Melendez. Man, if you told me that Gilbert Melendez was out of action for 51 weeks. I could not tell. I mean, seriously, Melendez just looked like a world beater. I mean, his right hand was finding a home for Giri. He was slipping punches. He was man. He was kind of fluid too. He'd punch. When they clinch, he'd go for those knees. I mean, man, when he got him on the ground, he'd just beat him up. I mean, Giri just had nothing for him, and Giri's a very good fighter. He's a consensus top 10 lightweight, and Melendez pulverized them. I mean, seriously, it wasn't much. I thought Giri would make it more of a fight, but man, Melendez just creamed him. Man, home for the right hand, home for some uppercuts. He shot in. Giri shot in, took an uppercut for shooting in. Elbows to the floor have been helping Strikeforce so much. You see Melendez going for elbows on Giri, boom, 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 man. It was just his head, man. He is bobbleheading Giri there, man. Melendez, I want to see this guy in the UFC. If not in the UFC, I want to see him fight. KJ Noons would be a really good fight for him. Both guys, especially if it goes into stand-up, but Melendez can definitely take it to the ground. If not, Justin Wilcox, they've been grooming him. He's been winning main events and Strikeforce challengers. Justin Wilcox, and he just painted the hexagon red with Rodrigo Dam's blood. So Justin Wilcox versus Melendez could work as well. Eventually, I want to see him in the UFC, but there are actually still those two pretty good lightweights in waiting for him. He could have a third fight with Thompson, but at this point, I don't really want to see it. I think Melendez has just really went a lot farther than Thompson has at this point in both their careers. I really want to see Melendez in the UFC. I think he's definitely a top 5 fighter. A lot of people will scoff and say, oh man, he can't beat Frankie Edgar, he won't beat Gray Maynard, he won't beat, this guy. It's like, well, he has the skills. His stand-up's really good. Go for it. His wrestling's really good. His control is really good. He hits hard. He is a finisher. I mean, he has a lot of good skills. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, he'd cream a Gray Maynard or Frankie Edgar, but he'd definitely make it a fight, and he has the potential to win, in my opinion. Of course, the other guys can beat him too. I'm just saying that, it's not like it's one-sided or anything. Okay, and the main event saw Nick Diaz beating Paul Simtex Daley by TKO at the very end of the first round. This had to be best round of the year easily. I mean, this was awesome, man. I mean, Diaz was dropped a couple times. There was a questionable time. I was reading through some blogs, and it was kind of questionable whether, when Diaz was flat on his stomach, he was allowed to recover, and then at the end of the round, Daley, I mean, he was on Queer Street. I think it was a fine stoppage, but the argument is well, where's the consistency here? Why, Daley was kicking away. Why not give him that same time to recover that Diaz was given? But I think it was a fine stoppage. I'm just reiterating some of the stuff that I've been reading around. A lot of people didn't think that Nick Diaz would stand with Daley, and he did. He took his best shots, got floored with a lot of his best shots. But man, his chin is granite or something, man. I mean, this guy's chin. I saw him took so many big shots and just walked through them. Other shots he get dropped from, of course, and his recovery ability is insane. It's a great win. I say this: Josh Koscheck beat Paul Daley to fight George St. Pierre. Nick Diaz just beat Paul Daley by TKO in the first round. I just, if this were the UFC, I don't really see why there shouldn't have a double standard as far as if Diaz. I'm just saying, if Diaz ever wanted to fight GSP, I think it wouldn't be unjustified. Jake Shields came into the UFC, beat Martin Kampmann at 170. Before that at 170, I believe Jake Shields' best win was against Paul Daley. I think this fight really showed a couple things with Diaz. He's a great fighter. His stand-up's definitely something to be feared. If, say, he fought like George St. Pierre, one thing I noticed when he was on his back, he kept punching. And I kind of got to wonder, if George St. Pierre took down Diaz, he'd still get punched in the head, and it's just a different thing that I haven't seen other guys do to GSP. Once he's takes down a guy, the other guy kind of just wants to survive, but they don't really fight too much off their back, whereas Nick Diaz looks like a guy that'll really fight off his back a lot. I don't think GSP would want to stand too long with Diaz. Don't get me wrong here. I think GSP would beat Nick Diaz. Okay? In 5 rounds, I think it'd be GSP going for the takedown, ground and pound, rinse and repeat. Just total and utter control. I'm just saying that Nick Diaz does offer some threats that other guys don't, and which is why I'd like to see Nick Diaz in the UFC, actually. Heck, I'd actually like to see Paul Daley. After a performance like this, I really would like, I think Daley has, I honestly think Daley has redeemed himself. I think he's a UFC caliber fighter. He's a very fun fighter to watch. I'd like to see him in the UFC too. The only guy that Diaz can fight in Strikeforce right now really is Tyron Woodley, who's a wrestler, so that'll be very interesting. Diaz can go 5 rounds, and I don't know if Tyron Woodley can go 5 rounds, especially with a wrestling-centric style. So it's really interesting, actually. And I think Diaz would actually... Diaz was controlled by guys like Shirk. He got out-wrestled a lot of times in the past. I always just gotta wonder, seeing this, now he's punching from the bottom, going for stuff. You already know he's good at scrambling. I gotta wonder if he's gonna be a problem for wrestlers in the future, or not. Maybe not. Maybe he'll just, maybe the weakness will be the wrestling. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, Diaz looked really good. The guy, personality-wise, is like the Charlie Sheen of MMA. The guy, I don't know if this guy is getting paid enough in Strikeforce or he's getting underpaid, and it doesn't even seem like he knows. This guy says the craziest things. I think he'd be he's definitely a centerpiece for Strikeforce, but I'd really like to see him in the UFC as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for Strikeforce Diaz versus Daley. If you have any comments or anything, just leave them below. And yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.